Welcome to Newsbeacon, your trusted source for breaking headlines, global insights, and sharp analysis from around the world. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. A new kind of wall is rising on the US-Canada border, but this time, it's not made of steel, barbed wire, or concrete barriers. Instead, it's an invisible wall, one built from a complex web of rules, regulations, and trade laws that are rapidly changing the landscape of North American commerce. On August 22, 2025, Canada shocked both Washington and Wall Street by announcing a sweeping set of tough new restrictions on American companies hoping to sell goods and services in Canada. This unexpected move disrupts decades of open trade and friendly cooperation between two of the world's closest allies, sending ripples through both economies. Now, American-made cars, Midwest farm goods, and cutting-edge Silicon Valley technology all face fresh hurdles and new layers of bureaucracy at the border. Canada calls it a fairness measure designed to protect its own industries and workers, but for US businesses, it feels more like a slammed door than a handshake. Supply chains that took decades to build are suddenly in jeopardy, with trucks idling at the border and warehouses running low on goods. The timing couldn't be more critical. As the global economy faces mounting pressures, even the closest allies are now putting their own interests first, raising fears of a domino effect worldwide. Ironically, Canada is now using a legal tool first popularized in the US under President Trump, a law originally meant to protect American industries, now being turned back on its creator. This unexpected twist highlights how political and trade ideas can boomerang in surprising and sometimes unintended ways, reshaping alliances and rivalries. The world is watching closely. Will this spark a full-blown trade war, or could it force both countries to negotiate a new kind of partnership for the future? Millions of jobs, livelihoods, and entire industries on both sides of the border now hang in the balance, waiting to see what happens next. The stakes have never been higher for North America's economic future, with markets and families alike bracing for what comes next. The big question remains, how will the US respond to its closest neighbor's bold and unprecedented move? The answer could reshape the continent for years to come. The architect of Canada's bold move is Mark Carney, a global heavyweight in finance and economics. Carney led both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, earning a reputation for navigating crises with calm precision. His return to Canadian politics brought world-class expertise to Ottawa. Carney's vision economic sovereignty, Canada controlling its own destiny, not living in America's shadow. Supporters see him as a strategic leader, ready to defend Canadian interests. Critics worry his globalist background could risk vital partnerships, but no one doubts his grasp of the global system. Carney's team spent months planning this move, studying US trade laws and their consequences. He presented the plan as a defensive measure, a way to level the playing field for Canadian businesses. This isn't an attack, he insisted, but a necessary stand for Canada. His calm, confident delivery made a shocking announcement sound inevitable. Carney's leadership is now being tested on the world stage. The law at the heart of this dispute? It's actually American. Section 301 of the 1974 Trade Act. President Trump famously used it to slap tariffs on China, giving the US power to punish unfair trade partners. The core idea: reciprocity, treat others as they treat you. If a country blocks US goods, America can retaliate. Mark Carney flipped the script. If the US can use this logic, so can Canada. Canada pointed to US policies that give American firms an edge, then imposed its own barriers. A tool of American protectionism is now a Canadian weapon. This sets a new precedent. Any country can now use aggressive reciprocity. What started as a US policy is becoming an international standard. The rules of global trade are changing, fast. Here's how this tit-for-tat works. If the US says Canada's dairy rules hurt American milk sales, it slaps tariffs on Canadian cheese. Now, Canada is mirroring that playbook. Targeting US industries, it says get unfair help, like subsidized corn. Canadian tariffs make American corn pricier, hurting US farmers and businesses. The US could retaliate with tariffs on Canadian maple syrup or auto parts. This cycle can quickly spiral into a trade war, with both sides piling on new barriers. In a trade war, everyone pays. Higher prices, lost sales, and economic pain on both sides. Each country claims it's just defending fairness. Both use the same logic. reciprocity, to justify their actions. That's why these disputes are so hard to solve. Each side sees itself as reasonable, the other as unfair. The result? Stalemate and rising costs. The border becomes a battleground, not a bridge. The stakes keep rising with every new tariff. The fallout is immediate on both sides of the border. American companies face new costs. Furniture, farm goods, and tech products suddenly become pricier in Canada. Some may lay off workers or even shut down if they lose access to Canadian buyers. Small towns and farming communities are hit hard, with crops unsold and local economies suffering. Meanwhile, some Canadian businesses benefit. Less competition means more sales for local firms. The government hopes this protection will build stronger homegrown industries. But there's a downside. Canadian factories that rely on US parts now pay more, raising costs and prices. Consumers in both countries face fewer choices and higher bills. If the US retaliates, Canadian exporters will suffer too. The two economies are so intertwined that any wall hurts both sides. What was once seamless trade is now a source of pain. The cost of protectionism is shared by all. Why did Canada make this move now? First, to protect Canadian jobs, industries like manufacturing and agriculture have struggled against US giants. The government wants to show it's strong and independent, not just following America's lead. Using an American-style law sends a powerful message. Canada is an equal, not a junior partner. There's also a sense that the trade relationship is unbalanced. Canada points to Buy American rules and US subsidies that block Canadian goods. After years of fruitless talks, Ottawa decided only bold action would get Washington's attention. Timing matters, global trade rules are weakening, and more countries are acting alone. With the US distracted by domestic issues, Canada saw a chance to reset the relationship. The hope? Short-term pain for long-term gain, a fairer deal in the future. This is a calculated risk, not a reckless gamble. Canada is betting that tough action now will pay off later. The world is watching to see if that bet works. This isn't just a North American story, the world is watching. If two close allies can clash, anyone can. Canada's move gives other countries a new playbook. Stand up to bigger economies using their own rules. This could spark a domino effect with more nations putting up trade barriers. As the US and Canada fight, others like Mexico, the EU, or Japan may step in to fill the trade gaps. Billions in trade could shift overnight, redrawing global supply chains. The bigger picture globalization is reversing. National interests are trumping international cooperation. Businesses everywhere now face new risks, tariffs, disputes, and sudden rule changes. The era of open markets is fading. Uncertainty is the new normal. Investment slows, growth stalls, and everyone feels the chill. The US-Canada dispute is a warning for the world. The rules of global trade are being rewritten. What happens next? The world holds its breath as tensions rise at the border. The ball is in Washington's court, and every move will be closely watched by both nations. The US could retaliate with new tariffs, measures that might be popular at home, but could trigger a chain reaction, risking jobs and growth on both sides of the border. Or, Washington could take Canada to the World Trade Organization, hoping for a legal victory. But that process is slow, unpredictable, and could drag on for years, leaving uncertainty in its wake. The most likely path: negotiation, where both sides must come together despite their differences. Leaders from both countries must sit down and talk, demanding concessions, seeking compromise, and navigating a maze of political pressures at home. The talks will be tough. Neither side wants to appear weak, and every word will be scrutinized. The US wants Canada to drop its barriers and open its markets further. Canada, meanwhile, wants the US to address long-standing complaints and respect its own economic interests. Both sides must give something to get a deal. Compromise is the only way forward. The future of the US-Canada partnership hangs in the balance, with millions of jobs and billions in trade at stake. This is more than a trade spat. It's a test of a century-old friendship, built on trust and cooperation. The choices made now will shape both economies for generations, affecting workers, families, and businesses across North America. Will they spiral into a damaging trade war, or find a new balance that benefits both sides? The world is watching as these two old friends face their biggest test yet, with global markets reacting to every development. the outcome will echo far beyond their borders, influencing trade relationships around the globe. The stakes, prosperity, jobs, and the future of global trade could not be higher. In the end, negotiation is the only way forward, and the world waits to see if common ground can be found. Picture this: two kids, Alex and Sam, each with their own lemonade stand set up right next door to each other on a sunny suburban street. Their stands are separated by a simple fence, but their competition is anything but simple. Alex's parents provide him with free sugar and plenty of supplies, so he's able to sell his lemonade at a much lower price than Sam. Sam, on the other hand, has to buy his own ingredients, making it impossible for him to match Alex's prices. Frustrated, Sam complains about how unfair it is, but Alex just shrugs and says, "That's just how my house works. I can't help it if I get a better deal." One day, after a chat with his wise uncle, Mr. Carney, Sam comes up with a new idea. He sets a rule: anyone selling lemonade with free sugar must pay a fairness fee to even things out. Suddenly, Alex's lemonade costs exactly the same as Sam's whenever he tries to sell in Sam's yard. The playing field is now level, at least on the surface. Alex is furious. He protests, "That's my rule, you can't just turn it around and use it against me." But Sam stands his ground and calmly replies, "It's about fairness. I'm just trying to level the field so we both have a chance." Now, with both stands charging the same higher price, customers start to disappear. Both kids lose business, and the neighbors who used to enjoy cheap lemonade now have to pay more or go without. The once friendly rivalry turns sour. Their friendship is strained, and both Alex and Sam are left wondering, should they keep building fences and making new rules, or is it time to sit down, talk, and find a better way forward together? This simple story is actually a reflection of what's happening between the US and Canada today. Trade rules that were originally meant to protect local businesses can quickly turn into weapons, hurting both sides and making things harder for everyone. The real solution isn't more rules or higher fences. It's sitting down, having honest conversations, and working together to build new fair rules that benefit everyone. Only then can the lemonade and trade flow freely again, bringing prosperity and friendship back to both sides of the fence.